Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
Here we are in Steve's kitchen.
Studio C.
And we're brewing a batch of beer in the background, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what we're drinking.
This is a maple barley wine.
A maple barley wine from Ricky in Berkeley, California. But the package came from Wilmington, Delaware. I think he moved. But if you remember a few episodes back, we had a Dandelion Kolsch.
That's right.
Same guy. This is delicious.
Yeah.
We've had email from people in the past asking, can you brew with maple syrup? Sure you can.
I'm here to testify that you can.
This is lovely. It's like, it starts out like a Belgian double, but then as, right after you swallow, this maple syrup flavor really comes through.
So I was wanting to put it on pancakes.
We haven't gotten that far yet. Maybe we'll be dipping those in like biscotti later on.
That's right.
But just to go down the recipe a little bit, 8 ounces of Crystal 90, but get your paper ready. 4 ounces of Belgian aromatic, 12 ounces of dark Munich, 8 ounces of Crystal 60, I believe it is. It says 660, but I think that may be a typo. 2 ounces of roasted barley, 8 pounds of amber malt extract.
So this is an extract beer.
This is an extract beer. You can make really, really good extract beers.
Yeah.
And 4.2 pounds of maple syrup. So quite a lot of maple syrup in there. Probably an expensive
I was going to say.
beer.
Yeah.
1 ounce of bouillon hops. Never used bouillon.
I'm not familiar with bouillon hops.
1 ounce at 60 minutes and another ounce at 20 minutes. The original gravity was 1093. Final gravity 1017, giving us an ABV of 9.8%. So, and I don't know what yeast he used, but I'm assuming that's a fairly clean yeast because there's not the funk of a Belgian,
right?
But the sugars from the maple syrup give it that kind of Belgian double kind of a flavor, and it's just a lovely beer.
You almost think you would have used an English ale or even just, California common yeast.
It's kind of a, it's pretty fruity.
Boy, when you swirl it up, you get a lot of really nice alcohol coming off of there.
Yeah.
That is a barley wine.
Yeah.
That is really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for sending that to us, and send more.
Good job, Ricky.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this beer that's being birthed behind us here.
Being birthed.
It's in the incubation stage.
That's right. Well,
this is a beer to go along with the season.
That's right. This is a holiday pumpkin beer from our friends Casey and Jen. And loosely based on, I think the inspiration for was from our other friend Paul Morstad.
That's right.
Who made one a few years ago, posted the recipe. Casey and Jen did wonderful things with the recipe, and then we've done more things.
And they've backed off on the spice quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I actually had one of these. They dropped by the homebrew store, the home brewery in Fayetteville. I was hiding in the back, as I wanted to do. And they came by.
For beers.
That's right. And they came by with a brown ale, which was also good, and this spiced pumpkin beer, which was also very delicious. So I said, we've got to make that.
Yeah.
You had some pumpkin.
I had some pumpkin. I went to our farmer's market I guess about a month ago, and I bought a pumpkin pie pumpkin, thinking I would make a pumpkin pie, and it sat around the kitchen cabinet for about a week. I decided I needed to roast it and do something with it, so I made a pumpkin puree, put it in the refrigerator, and then couldn't get that word out. And then when James and I got to talking about doing this show, I said, well, I got some pumpkin. So
you roasted the pumpkin.
We roasted the pumpkin, and I made a puree out of it. Then we just got it out of the freezer, and did our thing. So we had to use a lot of rice hulls to make sure we didn't get a stuck sparge.
That's right.
So that was one of our fears. But otherwise, the recipe, I think, is going to be wonderful. It's 5.5 pounds of German Pilsner malt. Now, the recipe from Casey and Jen called for Belgian Pale, but our friends at High Gravity didn't have Belgian Pale.
He made a little visit in Tulsa.
That's right.
Our friends High Gravity in Tulsa.
Hi, Desiree. And 4 pounds of Munich, 8 ounces of 40 Lovibond Crystal, 8 ounces of Victory, 1 pound of rice hulls.
Yeah, just for insurance.
Just for insurance. And we got a very, very clean sparge.
Smooth.
No problem. 2.5 pounds of pureed pumpkin, And in the mash also 8 ounces of roasted pumpkin seeds.
Right, and those were delicious. You got those from a Mexican market?
I did.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Roasted them up, and just essentially like big sunflower seeds.
Kind of.
And how'd you prepare those for the mash?
Well, what I did was I put them in the oven on a cookie sheet, actually a pizza pan, and roasted them at 300 degrees for 20 minutes, made them crispy and just really, really a nice nutty flavor. Let them cool, and then I put them into a Ziploc bag, just like you would a specialty grain if you're going to crack your grain in a bag, and cracked it with a rolling pin. Added that to the mash, and that'll give a really nice roastiness to it.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned about the oil from the seeds, and then I decided, what the heck? So
You got to live dangerously a little bit.
but well, actually, what I thought about was oatmeal stouts, and I thought how oatmeal adds a little oiliness. But if you're careful with it, it's no problem. Also, people put chocolate.
And Casey and Jen use seeds in theirs.
And actually, that was the thing. They used the seeds from the pumpkin that they roasted. So that's what we did.
And what about spices? Did you talk about spices?
Not yet. At the at the end of the boil, at the last 10 minutes of the boil, which we're just about halfway into the boil right now, actually not quite halfway, we're going to add to it some teaspoon of cinnamon, the equivalent of 2 cinnamon sticks, 4 whole cloves, and 2 whole allspice berries.
Ground up.
Ground up, which we'll grind up in a mortar and pestle. And we'll add that at the last 10 minutes, along with 1.5 pounds of watermelon honey.
From our friend Dave in Little Rock.
That's right.
Got all kinds of friends.
It's all coming together. So anyway, that's the beer that we're making right now. I mean, it's in the first 30 minutes of a 60-minute boil as we speak.
Did you talk about hops and yeast?
Not yet. The hops are I'm having trouble. The hops are 1.25 ounces of U.S. Hallertauer. I think
At 60 minutes.
At 60 minutes, 1.25 ounces of Hallertauer at 30 minutes, and 1/2 ounce of Cascade at 10 minutes. And the yeast is actually very interesting. The recipe called for White Labs 002, but what we're doing is we racked a porter that I made earlier off the primary just a little bit ago into the secondary, and we're going to use the yeast cake from that porter to for this pumpkin beer. So we'll
show you how to do that on a later
Yeah.
episode. We're going to save that.
Yeah, we're going to save that part. But the yeast is actually the Safale 05 from a porter that I had made just recently. So
that's another experiment that we're doing today.
yeah,
And we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
On it when we try the beer at a later episode. So if you pay attention, if you look in the background, we're using 2 brew pots. Why is that?
It's cold out and it's really windy out. So we decided to break the brewing, the boil, into 2 smaller pots so that it would be easier to deal with.
To do inside on your electric stove, because if you were using the full-size pot.
It would take, 3 weeks to boil?
And on the positive side, if you have 2 smaller pots, easier to chill as well.
That's right. And we're just using an ice bath today, not messing around with an immersion chiller or any fancy equipment. Very simple, all in the kitchen. Easy way to make beer. Well, Rick, this is wonderful beer. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Thank you, Jen and Casey, for sharing your pumpkin recipe with us. We'll send you a bottle when we get done.
There you go. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Happy brewing.
Happy brewing.
Come and visit us on the web. At basicbrewing.com, you can find archive lists of both our audio and video podcasts on home brewing. You can also find our DVDs, Introduction to Extract Home Brewing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and our latest edition, Introduction to Wine Kits. And for a limited time, you can find our 2009 Brewer's Logbook, where you can schedule and track the details of up to 50 batches of beer. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Write to james@basicbrewing.com, steve@basicbrewing.com, or just use the contact form on basicbrewing.com.
Oh my God.
Pumpkin poo.
Pumpkin poo.